Welcome to our customs.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. And we've got a bit of sunshine in the UK today, and I forgot it existed. So I thought what reminds me of spring is a bloom. So I'm going to be using my homemade crystal edge mold for this one, which holds about 5 ounces of resin. And if you've not seen how I made that, go back, watch the earlier video, and hopefully you'll be able to do the same. But I'm really happy with the results that I've got, and I've only done one coaster in it so far, which I think turned out pretty cool, which was this mica powder bloom, and I absolutely love the shine on it. It's absolutely stunning. So for this one, I've had something going through my brain ever since I got into blooms, because with alcohol ink blooms, you literally drop the ink on the surface, put in your white design, and that creates your bloom. I wanted to know what would happen if I mix the alcohol ink in the resin first. I obviously let that pull in a little bit, and then add my white for the bloom and see what happens. So if you're interested in that, you're in the right place. So I've mixed up 6 ounces of resin, which is too much for this mold, but I'm hoping to have some spare anyway to put into a drip mold. And I'm probably going to use my dog mold that I did in the most recent video, which came out stunning with those 36 mica powders. So probably going to use that as my drip mold, and I want to get 2 or 3 projects done this weekend. So I'm trying to get this done. It's 9 o'clock in the morning at the minute, but I want it to be set up enough so that I can move it and get on to the next project. So biggest piece of advice with blooms is pick your resin wisely. You ideally want, I would say, a medium viscosity resin. So I've mixed up some resin, put it through the debubbling machine, and it's just heating up at the minute, which is the next thing. You want your resin to be, if it's a medium viscosity resin, around about 36 degrees, and at the minute we're at 30.4. And people have asked me about these laser thermometers and think they're expensive. This one cost me about 12 quid from Amazon, and it works really well from what I can tell. So again, they're not overly expensive, and for me, they do the job really well. You point, pull the trigger, and it tells you the temperature. So we're at 30.7, so we're only about 6 degrees off. Now you want to think about the whole bloom before it gets to temperature, and that's where you need to get organised. So at the side, I've got my cup with my piping bag in ready for my white. So my white, which is just going to be done with the Let's Resin Ocean White, I'm going to add a tiny bit of this blue interference powder, and that's just because I love the results I get from that. So that's going to be my white. Now for this one to be different, I'm not going to drop the inks on the surface. I've got these little cups set up at the side, and I've pre-picked my alcohol inks from Let's Resin, and I'm going to mix those into the resin, pour the resin in with those colours. Hopefully it's all going to mix together and give us a really colourful sort of base to put that white in, and see if we get a different kind of bloom. That is the plan. Whether it works or not, I don't know. And that's the fun of working with resin, you don't know. And for the centre, I've got these little black, I suppose you'd call them glass stones, but I'm also going to add some of these Aurora pinkish flakes to those, and I think the contrast will make quite a nice centre. So I've got those ready at the side as well. And I think that's pretty much all I'm going to need at this point to be prepared for the bloom. And as I say, the temperature is nearly there. So we're at 31 degrees at the minute. I want it to get to 36. And the idea is here, I'm going to pour a tiny bit of the clear in just to cover that base. Then the rest of it, I'm going to mix with probably 4 or 5 drops of this alcohol ink, because I do want the colour to stand out. And then pour it in rings around, and hopefully that's all going to pull in together, merge with those colours, maybe create some new colours, and see what happens. Will it bloom or won't it? I don't know. By doing it this way, it may not even bloom. So it's going to be a fun experiment. So the colours I've picked for the alcohol inks: dark indigo, which is a really dark purple. I've gone with Sagilite as well, which is a nice red. And then I've gone with 2 different blues, so sapphire blue, which is a really deep blue colour, cerulean, just because it's my favourite light blue colour in the Let's Resin range, and then I've gone with lemon yellow, and I don't want a lot of that, I just want it in the centre to hopefully make it look like the centre of a bloom with these black bits going in the centre. So whether this is going to work or not, I don't know. But hey, it's only resin. And if it's your first time to the channel, or if you're a regular viewer, do me a favour and subscribe. I know most of you watch on the telly, so there should be a QR code just there. Point your phone at it and it takes you straight to the option to subscribe to the channel. We keep growing week on week, which is so exciting. I can't wait till we get to 10,000. When we do, I'm going to do a pretty big giveaway. And again, memberships are open as well. If you join the memberships, you get access not only to seeing these videos early, but also to the monthly prize draw, where every month somebody wins a piece of my resin art for free, shipped around the world wherever you are. And for the cost of a coffee, it really supports the channel, and who knows, you could be the next winner. So just going to check the temperature now. And we're up to about 32 degrees, so we're almost there. So I'm going to get on with mixing the centre. And I say, I don't need a lot of these, but I'm going to just sort of put some in a cup so that we can get them mixed, ready to go, and just put into that centre. So I'm going to use mica scoop, I think, and I think I just want maybe 3 scoops. One, even that could be too many. I'm going to go with 3 of those. And if I get extra, again, I've got drip moulds. I love doing drip moulds. And then I'm going to probably go with 3 of these as well. Might be too much, so I might go with 2 actually. So I'm just going to put 1, just to give it a bit of sparkle in that centre is the plan. And I don't know what this will look like either with the alcohol inks, so it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to steal a tiny bit of the resin in there, just enough to sort of cover it and make a bit of a paste, because I don't want them going everywhere as well, which is always a risk. And there we go. This should be enough for that centre. And as I say, it's just making a paste, which I can then drip into it afterwards, and I think they'll look pretty cool. There we go. So that is what my centre is gonna look like. So I'm gonna leave that for now. Eventually, once we've got those colours in, literally I'm just gonna drip a bit of this in the centre, and that will be my centre. Now, I haven't re-leveled my surface either before doing this project, so another top tip is make sure your surface is level before you start, which I should have done, but didn't. So there we go. And we're at 34 degrees at the minute, so we're not far off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my alcohol ink in these pots ready to pour. So these are going to be for my alcohol inks, and I've just noticed if I'm going to be doing 5 colours of alcohol inks, I am a pot short for my white, so I just need to grab one of those. So this is going to be for my white. And I know typically I use just over a drop of this Let's Resin Ocean White for my blooms, and it works really well. So again, I'm just going to put that in there ready. Oh, bit of static going off there and a bit of string. And I think that should be enough, because with your white, you don't want it too heavy. If it's too heavy, you'll get the dreaded blobs. So that is going to be for my white. And I'm just going to add 1 scoop of this Interference Blue. And hopefully it's going to create a really nice effect in those petals. Again, I don't know how it's going to blend with all of these different colours that I'm using, but we will find out together. That's the fun of resin. So just 1, I might put 2 in actually. So 2 scoops of this Interference Blue. And then what I'm going to do is just add a couple of drops of my Let's Resin Sea Deeper. I just think it helps the blooms spread a little bit, but make sure you shake it up. So I put it in these needle top bottles, and I've got some ball bearings in there, which really mixes up that pigment and hopefully stops blobs. But again, you don't want a lot of it, because if you put too much of this in, you're going to kind of get the Petri effect and almost encourage blobs. So all I put in is literally 3 drops, and that's enough for me. And that should be enough for my white. So that is ready now to just be poured. I'm just going to check my temperature, and we're at 34 degrees at the minute, so we're almost there. So this is the Sapphire Blue. Always make sure you shake up your inks as well, because otherwise you're not going to get them mixed properly. And I'm going to start off, I think I want these quite dark, so I'm going to go with 5 drops of each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's my Sapphire Blue. And the reason I'm doing this now is just so that I can move them out of the way and have a bit more room to actually do the bloom. This is the Cerulean. There we go. And I just want enough in there that it's going to give this resin a nice tint. And if this works, it might give us a brand new effect. So dark indigo. And again, if you want anything from the Let's Resin range, I have got the links in the description, which gets you money off. So again, save yourself some money. It's always good to save yourself some money, and it helps support the channel as well. So this is that Sagilite, which is quite a deep pink, I would say, rather than a dark red. And then this is the lemon yellow. Now the lemon yellow is really light, so I'm actually going to go for double the amount. I'm going to put 12 drops, and that should be ready. So I think we are pretty much there. I'm ready to get this bloom on. And we're at 35 degrees, so I'm happy with that. I'm ready to go, because by the time I've mixed these up, I think we'll be at the perfect temperature. So again, I'm just going to pour some in, just eyeballing it, probably about a quarter of the way up in these disposable cups. And then I'm going to mix them. And the idea here is hopefully these will all pull in a bit like your bloom would, as well as still giving us enough time for the petals to work as well. And then obviously for the white, I'm going to probably go about halfway up, because I like to have a little bit more white. So at the minute I've used about maybe 3.5 of that resin. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, because I do want this to be quite a colourful bloom, hopefully to celebrate spring on its way. And it's nice to see a little bit of sun. I think it just puts a smile on your face when you've had a long winter. So there's those. I'm still going to leave that in the cup for now. And my thermometer, I've got it on Fahrenheit. I wondered what was happening there. It was up to 95. So 35.1 degrees after pouring those out. So that's not a worry. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a thin layer to the base of this crystal mold, just enough to cover it before we go in with those lovely colours. And if this doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least I'll know. And I've still got some spare here, so I don't want too much spare. So again, let's just add a little bit more and leave that to settle whilst I'm working with everything else. So I'm going to move that to one side, and obviously anything spare will be going into a drip mould. And I'm hoping to have some spare, because I deliberately mixed up 6 ounces, and I know that this mould only takes 5. So first thing to do is mix up the white, and I'm hoping it's going to give me almost a skimmed milk consistency. I don't want it too opaque, but I want to be able to see that white, and it's probably best not to do that over your mould. So I'm just going to move it to the side, because again, I don't want any bits going into that mould, but just make sure you're mixing it thoroughly, mixing all of that white pigment in there, so you've got a nice consistent colour. And if you can see here, I can still just about see through to the stick, so that's what I want, almost that skim milk consistency. And now I've got my piping bag ready. Just going to pour it straight into the piping bag, and that will be my white for these bloom petals. And I've not decided what design I'm going to do yet with them. I think it will largely depend on how this alcohol ink test works as to what I do with it. So all of my white is now in that piping bag, and then all I do, dead straightforward, get your piping bag and squeeze. Now make sure it doesn't come out the back when you do this as well. So literally, I'm just going to squeeze it down a little bit and give it a twist. That is now ready to go, and it's feeling a tiny bit warm, which is good. It means hopefully I've got my resins to the right temperature. Now, before I do anything else, I'm just going to check the surface of this resin, and I can see a tiny bit of glitter or something's gone in there. So that can come off. I mean, I don't think it'll have an impact in the overall look, but again, I don't want to have any foreign bodies in there. And just a very quick torch. When you're using a torch like this, stay away from the edges of your mould, especially if you spent the time to make a handmade mould like this. Last thing you want to do is ruin it. So now we're going to mix up these colours. So this is that lemon yellow. And again, just make sure it's thoroughly mixed through, and hopefully it will just give the resin that colour. So this is my lemon yellow. And I am adding a few bubbles by doing this, but hopefully we'll get rid of those when we pour them in, because I'm going to leave them to just settle for a second. So this is that lemon yellow, lovely colour. Wipe off my stick. This is going to be that Sagilite, and again, just mixing it through, making sure that, again, I'm going to do this one a bit slower, because I don't want to introduce too many bubbles like I did with that yellow, after I've gone to the trouble of removing them. but you're always going to get some when you're mixing resin, whether it be alcohol ink, micas, whatever it happens to be. So that is my Sagittite. And again, I'm probably pronouncing that right, guys, so nobody's corrected me yet, but maybe you're just all being polite and it should just be Sagittite. I don't know. Let me know if you know in comments. This is the Azure Blue, which is a really deep blue colour. No, it's not. It's the Dark Indigo, which is a purple. So again, just mixing it around, making sure that the resin is completely mixed with that alcohol ink. And let me know in comments, do you think this is going to work? I'm 50-50, but ever since I started Blooms, it's something I've wanted to try, just to see if we get a very different effect, or any effect, and if it works, you know. The fun part of resin is just experimenting and seeing what happens. So again, just mixing it round, making sure that all of that alcohol ink is mixed in with the resin. And the only thing that I've noticed now that's concerning me a little bit is these bubbles that are appearing in the resin whilst I'm mixing, because I don't want those in the finished bloom. I'm hoping that they will just go naturally. But again, just be a little bit careful when you're mixing. Try not to introduce too many. So this is that cerulean, which is my favourite sort of light bluey colour. And again, just making sure that all that resin has mixed in with all of that alcohol ink. And if it works, hopefully we're going to get a different kind of bloom. Who knows? So that is those. And I'm loving the colours. So that's a good start. Now it is alcohol ink, but it's mixed in with the resin at this point, so I'm hoping I can still torch the surface and not set my workstation on fire, which is good. That seems to have worked. So now I'm going to put my centre in. I like to do that before I add usually the alcohol inks, and I'm just going to try and get a decent helping of this in the centre of that resin, he says. And it has created a paste. Come on. Oh, and that's just what I didn't want to happen, so I'm going to have to fix that. Here we go. Just want to get the rest in so I know where it is. Again, don't panic if something goes wrong like this. All you need to do is grab it, and I'm actually going to just move this into the centre. There we go. And then move it around a little bit so it doesn't look, hopefully, too unnatural. I don't mind if it spreads around a little. And I'm hoping that's reasonably central. Let me know if it's not in comments. I think actually it's a bit high, so I'm just going to push it down a little and make sure that we've got that coverage. So there we go. That is now my centre. Now the interesting part, which is going to be pouring these colours in. And I know I want some of the yellow in the centre. And actually I think I've mixed up too much of this yellow. I'm just going to pour that literally in the centre like so. There we go. So that's the yellow. Next colour I'm going to go with, I think, are the blues. So I'm going to go with the light cerulean. And just trying to pour it around where I poured that yellow. So there's a decent amount. And don't forget, all the time the resin is going to pull in. So it is going to be interesting. Now I'm going to go with the darker blue, and hopefully we're still going to see the differences in the colours. Now this dark indigo, but I don't know what is going to happen, if anything. So that's that dark indigo. And now for the red, or Sagittite. And then I'm going to try and get a little bit more of each in except for the yellow. So I'm going to start off with the cerulean. And these cups, if you've not poured from them before, are not the easiest to pour from. So just bear that in mind. And again, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but either way, we're going to find out. And as I say, it's been going through my brain ever since I started Blooms, what would happen? And whenever I do get an idea, it stays in my head till I do it. And there's only one way to do it. So now I'm just going to go, hopefully have enough room for these last two, and hopefully everything's still pulling in together. And I'm really hoping that we get a different result here to a standard bloom, but I don't know. And if there is a little bit of transparentness in between, again, I don't mind that because it's just going to highlight the white. And I do like a bit of white petal on the end. So the last colour is the red. And as you can see, it's also filling it up at the same time. So, and I did let that run a little bit. And then I'm going to go around again with the yellow, just on the outside, like so. And there we go. It's filled up nicely. The question is whether we're going to get a different kind of bloom. So I'm going to leave that for a second and just see how it develops or doesn't develop. And then we're going to go and put the petals in. But let me know in comments what you think. Is it going to create anything different or not? And in fact, because that's so, see, it's already pulling in. So those colours are already pulling into that centre and mixing together, which is what I was hoping would happen. But because of that, I'm just going to go around the edge again with this cerulean and hopefully make sure we've got colour all the way through this bloom. Try not to touch the edge of the mould, but if we do, we do. And I'm pretty happy with that. So what I am going to do is just put a little bit more of the yellow in the centre to make sure that that yellow still stands out. Hopefully pushing those blues back out just a tad. And I'm happy with that. I'm not going to do anything else with those alcohol inks in the resin. I think that's going to create a really colourful bloom. And as I say, I think it's going to be very interesting just to see what it turns out like. And in fact, this spare resin is going to go into a frog, just because I've got a frog near me. I just think it'd be, again, in fact, no, I'm not going to, because I need to put the eyes in the frog and do everything. So back to the original idea, which is this dog mould. Again, I'm just going to put him there. And it reminds me of Reggie, this dog mould, so that's why I got it. And it's, yeah, it's hopefully going to be interesting as well if we mix in all of these colours. So again, I'm just letting that settle for a second on the surface before I go in with the petals. And I'll let those just literally drip off to that mould. And gradually, over the next few projects, we'll fill this mould up. There we go. That should drip into there nicely. So as you can see, the colours are coming in a little bit and they're blending, which is what I was hoping for. So now it's time to put the petals in. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I think for the first one, I just want that spiral design, I think, because it's one of my favourite blooms. And if you look at how those colours are intermixing. Really happy with the way that this is looking so far. But the question I've got now is, with us doing the alcohol inks that way, are those petals going to still work? I don't know is the honest answer. But I'm going to do a smaller than usual cut on the bag, because I want these to be quite thin, but I still want there to be enough to spread. But if I do enough spirals, hopefully there'll still be enough. So just going to snip off the end and let me know what you think is going to happen in comments. Is this going to work? Is it going to give us a crazy sort of rainbow blended effect or not? And I'm loving the way they're mixing. I'm just wondering if I should leave it another 5 minutes before I do this, but I'm not going to in case they don't bloom. So here we go. Let's snip the end off. There we go, and it should naturally just drip out of the bag. About one drip every couple of seconds. And you know you're right. There's one, 2, 3, another one. So it naturally drips out the bag. So I am going to go with the spiral design and see what we get. So I'm going to try and start from the centre and then hopefully get a nice spiral evenly spread around. And if you're having trouble with your blooms, try piping. It's made a massive difference to all of my blooms, really. There we go. So that is my spiral, and I'm so excited to see how this is going to turn out. I'm hoping it's going to be one of my better ones, but you never know. You could get a great result, or you could get a mess. So all I'm going to do is this bit here looks a little bit heavy. So I'm just going to try and move it around a little bit, and then we're going to put in that design. And as I say, I'm not sure if this will work or not, but the only way we find out is by trying. So I'm going to pull in from the top, like so. Then from the bottom and from the side, there we go. And then I am going to pull them out a tiny bit. So I'm going to start from here on each petal, like so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm really hoping we get a good result with this one. I think it's shifting slightly, so I should have re-leveled my surface before doing this. But hopefully we're still going to get a cool effect. I don't know at this point. I'm just hoping that that now blooms, pulls it all in, and I've still got about 1 millimetre of space there, so I can add a backing if I decide to. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to put this on a time lapse now, and we're going to hopefully see that bloom pull in and then see what it looks like. I'm going to come back in about 6 hours and decide whether or not I want to put a back on this or not, and then we will hopefully demold tomorrow and see what results we've got. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, as always, like and subscribe, and we're going to demold this tomorrow, but onto a time lapse you go. Hey guys, and we're back, and it's been about 6 hours, so this should be cured up enough to put a back on now. So I am going to do it because I do want to see what this will look like with a back on. Again, I've got that dog mold to fill as well, and I've got these spare molds just in case I've mixed too much. So I've mixed up another 4 ounces of resin here, and I want to pour, I think, about half of it in here. There we go. So half of this I want in colour, and the other half I'm going to leave clear and see how we get on. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to be using this blue metallic pigment paste that I've used in quite a few of the recent videos, but I almost wanted to try and recreate a bit of a crackle effect. So I'm just going to pour the thinnest of layers around the edge, because you should pour some clear first, like so, and I just want it to be enough to cover, not too much, and hopefully just cover that surface so that there is still enough to go in afterwards with this metallic blue. And again, I don't know if this will work or not, but we'll find out. So I'm just going to leave that settle for a second. I'm going to do the same with the dog and just put a thin clear layer covering hopefully all of it, because if you've not done the crackle effect or the dragon scale effect or whatever you want to call it, that's one of the top tips I'll give you. Make sure you've got a thin layer of clear first, otherwise it often won't work. And again, there's just a few dots here where I can see it's not fully gone to the edge. I just want to make sure that, as I say, there is that thin clear layer all the way around, and hopefully no fish eyes. There we go. So I'm happy with that. I've still got some clear left. Now, I'm not sure whether to use it yet or not, because I want to make sure that these two are filled, but I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna risk it. So I'm gonna do this little keyring mold as well. Again, just putting some clear in there all the way around, and then I'm gonna put a little tiny bit in these little pendant molds I've got as well, and hopefully I'll have mixed up enough to get all of these done. Don't know, because I haven't measured it, but sometimes that's part of the fun of resin. Just play with what you've got and see what happens, you know. And as you can see, I'm just putting a small layer on all of those, and I've still got some clear left, so there's no point wasting it. I don't think I'll need any more clear. In fact, I will, because there's a couple of fish eyes still here. I don't want any risk of this not working, so there we go. And a little tiny drop just on this edge as well. There we go, so that's that. Now, it's a shame I poured it in there because there was no need. I'm just going to pour it back into the main cup. And then I'm going to mix that metallic blue in. And then just pour, in fact, I will need some clear for a bit of a push at the end. So I've just saved a tiny bit of the clear for a push. And then I've got about 1.5 ounces left in there. So I'm just going to, again, using my stick, stirring it around. And whatever's left on the stick is what I'm going to use. But again, make sure you stir it round when you use these pigment pastes, because they do need mixing together. And there we go. I think that's going to be more than enough. So that can go in there. Lid back on. And I'm just hoping I've got enough now. I don't think I will have, but we'll see. And then just mixing it all round in this cup to give us that deep, dark, metallic blue. And I think that will just give us a really nice back. Look at that. Beautiful. So, again, just making sure it's all off the stick and mixed into that resin. And then we're going to pour. It's as simple as that. And then see what we're left with. So I'm going to do a big puddle. In fact, no, I'm going to go around the edge first. I want to make sure that there's some of this all the way around the edge, like so. Happy with that. Then I'm going to pour some in the middle, like so. And then that'll be enough, I think, for that coaster. Now I'm going to do the same with the dog. Pour it all the way around. And I can see, I don't think I have mixed enough. But I can always mix up some more resin, I'm not worried about that. Same with this little teddy bear. And hopefully we'll get a tiny bit of a crackle effect, is what I'm hoping for, as that resin does its thing and pulls in. And I've slightly over poured that now. Again, same with these, I'm just going to fill them up and we'll see what happens, you know. It'll either work or it won't. And I'm definitely going to have to mix up a tiny bit more, I think, because that dog doesn't look anywhere near full. There we go. And I'm happy with that. And I actually don't mind a little bit of clear staying in there. So the rest of it can go into the dog, like so. And then I'm going to pour, first of all, from a height, he says, straight into the centre. And just push it out a little bit, all the way out. And then just let the resin do its thing. Hopefully it's still going to pull it in and we'll get some sort of effect. Now the rest can go straight into this dog and then I can figure out how much more I'm going to have to mix to fill it. Okay, so I'm going to guess at another 2 ounces. It's the first time I've fully filled this mould, so it's interesting just to see how level it is as well. I think it's slightly unlevel, but it is a homemade mould, so that is the risk. I'm just going to lift it ever so slightly because I don't want it to have any effect on whatever's going to happen, but I just think by doing that it's going to be less cleanup after and less overpour. So I'm going to leave that now and see what it does, and then I'm going to mix up another, I think 2 ounces should do it. So I'm just going to go straight into the colour as well. And I'm going to mix it straight into this cup so that hopefully we still get some of that blue, because for the dog, that's predominantly what I want, is that metallic blue look on the base. So we will see. And now we'll probably find that I've mixed far too much and have to find another drip mould. Always the case. But this should definitely be enough now. And all I'm going to do is just make sure it's mixed thoroughly with that paste. And it's doing something, so that's good. Doing something. And as you can see, when you're mixing a paste in, it's not that difficult to do. As long as you're mixing it around for the 2 to 4 minutes, you should be fine. And this is what you have to do if you've undermixed. So this should definitely now be enough to top up this mould. And I'll find that I've probably got a load more spare, I think. But we'll find out in a minute. But I do want to demould these all at the same time. So I just want to make sure that I've filled these pores, first of all. Actually, it takes quite a bit, this mould. That's surprised me a little bit. Whoa, that's definitely full. And this certainly isn't a level mould, guys. I think it's made for candles. So I'm just going to elevate it a little bit. And that should be okay. And I've still got some left, so I'm going to just put a tiny bit in the centre here. There we go. That is now pretty much full to the brim, so are these. And now I've got 1.5 ounces left. So, let's see what I can do. Have we got a little mould anywhere around? We have. So I've got this turtle mould, and I'm not expecting to fill this with this, but we'll see. But just to make it a bit more interesting, I'm going to put some of these foils in it as well. And this is where you need to just be creative on the go. When you've mixed up too much resin, you don't want to waste it. And don't do what I'm doing here, because as you can see, the foil sticks all over your gloves, which is not what I wanted. So I'm going to get some gold, some copper and some silver in here, I think. There's some gold. I'm just being careful because I don't want to get it in the bloom. So that's the gold. That's some silver and then some copper as well. And hopefully, if there is enough to fill the mould, it'll make a pretty cool turtle. Again, just trying to get it all in there. And then as you mix it round, it naturally breaks it up like so. Again, just don't want to waste it. Trying to get it all in the cup and just mixing those foils around with the resin that's left. And I'm hoping there'll be enough there actually to finish this turtle, which I wasn't planning on doing. So I need to make a little bit more space. So just gently going to move these to one side. And there's the turtle mould. But I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll find out in a sec. In fact, there's going to be plenty, I can tell. So just filling the head first. Then I like to focus on the flippers. So now before I fully fill this mould, what I like to do is just squeeze the head and the flippers. And it just makes sure that they're full. And you don't get any air bubbles in there. So there's a tip for you. And now I'm going to have to scrape the rest out, I think, to get it full. And now I'm going to find I'm a little bit short again. I can feel it. But again, you don't know until you try. Every last drop's going to get scraped out of this and we'll see where we are. In fact, I'm definitely going to be less than half an ounce short looking at this. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit more resin. 1 dollop of each, I think. 1 and 1. Now we should have enough. But some of the stresses you don't think about when you work with resin, you know? Under-mixing amounts, over-mixing amounts, happens to all of us. But I'm just hoping this tiny bit will be enough to just top up this turtle. And then we can see what he's going to look like as well. So it's going to be a big demold day tomorrow. I'm excited. So here we go. Just topping it up. Making sure he's full. And there we go. And we're there. Everything's full. Just going to get the bubbles off the top and then we'll see what we've got tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in the morning for demold and we'll see what this bloom's turned out like. We'll see what the dog's turned out like. We'll see what the teddy bear's turned out like, the turtle and these little pendants. So it's going to be a big demold tomorrow. So I'll see you guys then. Don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel and I'll see you at demold. Morning everyone, and it is the next day and it is time for demold, so I'm excited for this. I'm going to start off with the smallest, which is just this teddy bear. I suppose it's keyring mould. And there we go, that's just that lovely metallic blue, lovely shine to it. Came out really nice. So I'm expecting these to look very similar, these pendants. Haven't really got a crackly effect, but they're almost like a deep blue sapphire colour with that metallic blue. Absolutely lovely. This one's slightly over poured, but I can fix that. And again, these are really, it's just that metallic blue. I didn't get a crackly effect. I didn't think I would, to be fair. But I just love that colour. And I'm excited to see this bloom, whether or not it's worked. And don't forget, if you haven't already, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on your telly, point your phone at the telly, look at the QR code, and it takes you straight to the option to subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it really helps the channel. And if you can, memberships are also open and it gives you access to all of the perks, including seeing all of the content early. And on top of that, you go into the monthly prize draw for members. I'm loving that. Just this turtle. And we'll see how he turns out. Got to be a bit careful when you demold these as well because of these flippers and the head. You don't want to snap them off when you've gone to all the effort of making them. There we go. So that is now the turtle demolded as well. And he's come out stunning. Just that deep dark blue And you can just see those little bits of the foil coming through that metallic blue colour. Love him. I don't think I've had a bad turtle yet though, so love the intricate details on it as well. So there's the turtle. Well, we're getting closer, 2 left. Let's do the dog next, and this will be an interesting one with the 2 different elements to him. Wow. Very different. And I quite like it. You know, it's quite artistic, I think, the way that the resins all mixed together. So that is the dog with his sad face. Now, the only thing I would say is I don't really like using him as a drip mold because you get that clear line going between the 2 different layers, which with him I don't really like because of the design he is. So I'm probably not going to use that as a drip mold again. And you can just see those tiny little rocks that have come through as well. But that is the dog. And now the moment that I've been waiting for. Homemade mold. And let's see if we've got any of that bloom effect. Love that sound. As you demold. Again, lovely and clean and shiny, ready for the next pour. And here we go. A little bit of over pour, but I'm not fussed about that. And I love the back. Again, that's that metallic blue, but you can always see a bloom shape in there. And here we go. The moment of, wow. Look at that. Now it is quite dark, but that is because of the dark backing that I put on. And I love that. That is possibly one of my new favourites. It's almost like an underwater bloom. Just with those different colours. I might try this again, but not have such a dark background. Just to see what it comes out like. But I absolutely love that. And as you can see, the yellow bit just stands out as a bit brighter. It's like a bloom underwater to me, that one. So absolutely loving that. And you can see all of those individual petals. And I think that's come out really well. And you can see those different colours from the alcohol inks, almost creating those layers. But what I might do is do another one of these and just keep it transparent so you can really see those colour differences. But I'm absolutely loving that. One of my favourites, I think. So there we go. It wasn't meant to be an underwater bloom, but it looks like we've created an underwater bloom with that crystal edge going around the side. Let me know what you think in comments. And as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. But wow, I'm happy with that. Even the center, I think it came out really well. Stunning, I think is the word. And let me know if you've got any ideas that you want to see in a bloom or anything else in resin. Let me know in comments and we'll make it happen. But I'll get you guys some close-ups and I'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to our custom space where dreams take flight. A party visions coming to life. It's a perfect night. We born together, blooming free, resin family. Testing my guts, new